Today's recipe is going to be chicken risotto. Now, I am not a chef and I'm not pretending that this is the best or only way to do this. What I'm really keen to do is to share some really fast ways and simple ways of enjoying healthy, fresh ingredients quite cheaply. So you can see here I've got 2 chicken fillets. I usually make enough for 4 portions, even though there are only 2 of us, because that means that we've got a couple of days worth out of everything and it saves me cooking every day. So we've got 2 chicken fillets, a handful of mushrooms, a red pepper, a green pepper, some spring onions and some broccoli florets. You can add whatever you prefer into it, but those are the things that we particularly like in this dish. And then I've got a little virgin olive oil and some ginger and toasted sesame dressing that I actually add to the mix. All will become clear later. We've got arborio risotto rice, and the herbs that I like to use, I usually use dried because I don't have to worry about keeping them and how long I need to use them for. So I've got parsley, ground ginger, and I like the chopped garlic. It's sort of dried but chopped rather than garlic powder. But again, that's personal preference. And I've also got a vegetable stock cube. This all cooks up in one pan, although I like to start my chicken, I just gently fry it off in about a tablespoonful of olive oil first, just to seal it in a little bit before I add it to the risotto mix. So basically it's a frying pan and one pan. It's dead simple. You prepare the ingredients, which usually takes about 10 minutes, add it to the pan, takes 10 minutes to boil, and then I just leave it simmer, usually for about an hour, until it's all cooked, and all you have to do is check it and make sure that the juice isn't drying up and it's not sticking to the pan as you go along. So rather than bore you with watching me chop, because I'm not a chef so it doesn't look exciting, I'm going to just close the video for a minute while I get on with chopping everything, and then we'll go on to the next stage. So we've done the chopping, and here we've got my pan of boiling water. I don't know if you can see it from here, but the water's boiling now. I've got about 1.5 litres of water in there. I'm adding about 250 grams of my arborio rice. I'm just going to add that in. And my stock cube. Oops. Be careful when you do that, don't be splashing it everywhere. And then I'm just going to give that a gentle stir around so that my stock cube dissolves. That's the first part, because I don't want that to be sticking afterwards. I've got my pan ready here with the oil in. I'm just going to, once I've added the other ingredients to this pot, I'm just going to sear my chicken very gently before I add that. As you can see, I've now added my chicken onto a low heat. I've heated the oil, added my chopped chicken, which is very coarsely chopped. There's no science to it at all. Don't worry about the way that the vegetables are chopped, or worry about the way that the chicken's chopped. I'm just going to very lightly seal that in so that it soaks up some of the oil and just gently starts to cook before I add it to the pan. In the meantime, my stock cube is dissolved and my arborio rice is just simmering very gently. Starting that process. I just want this to just brown off very, well, not even brown really, but just start to cook off very, very gently. It seals in some of the juice and keeps it a little moist while it's cooking into the risotto itself then. So at the moment all we've got in here are the rice with water and the stock cube and a little bit of salt, because I like a bit of extra salt in mine, and the chicken's just very gently cooking off here in the pan. I'm now going to add my garlic. No science to this. No science to this at all. I'm just going to give it a bit of a shake in, so that I'm using probably about a teaspoonful or just over. Same with my ginger. Here we go, dried ginger. Got a teaspoonful of that. If you want to measure it, a teaspoonful should do it. And now I've got a little bit of parsley. There is parsley in the vegetable stock cube. I like a little bit extra. Probably again, just about a teaspoonful. It's very light, so nothing much happening there. Chicken's just starting to seal in quite well. Give that a bit of a stir around. It's going to finish cooking actually in the risotto itself. I just like to give it a little bit of a start off first. And now I'm going to add my vegetables. As you can see, again, there's nothing complicated about this. I don't do all the separate dishes like proper chefs. I've just put all my peppers, red pepper, green pepper, mushrooms, chopped my broccoli florets and my spring onions in together. I'm going to add those to the risotto. And all that lovely goodness is going to cook in with the rice and absorb all those flavours. It does make a whole pan full. And it's 4 good portions. You don't need anything with this. If you want to serve anything with it, you'll probably get 6 portions out of it. Lots of lovely goodness in there. Just going to raise the heat on that a little bit so that it starts to heat up a little bit more as the vegetables have gone in. I'm interchanging my spoon with these because I use the flavours from both anyway. Probably wouldn't see that in a cooking programme either. Be very careful when you do this with the hot oil. Oil and water don't mix well. Make sure that you're giving your spoon a good shake off if you're going to do that. Now, as you can see, my chicken is just cooked enough so that it's starting to turn white. That's as much as we need to do in the fry pan. I'm going to turn the heat off under there now, and I'm going to add that. It's a bit of extra stock into my. I'm going to do it this way if I find it easier. I'm going to add all of that into my risotto pan. Give that a good stir in. Make sure that it's all nice and mixed in there. Turn the heat down really low. On the lowest it'll go. Put the lid on. We're just going to leave that to simmer in gradually. That takes about an hour to cook. You need to keep an eye on it, maybe just check it every 15 minutes or so to make sure that not too much of the water is absorbed and there's not a started stick into the pan. And we'll be back in an hour when it's ready. Okay, so here we are after about 45 minutes of gentle simmering. As you can see, the rice is starting to look well cooked in now. All the veggies are nicely cooked in, and we're about to add the secret ingredient. You can tell I don't measure anything, but about 1 tablespoonful of this, I use this Naturally Righteous ginger and toasted sesame dressing, just because we really love the flavour that it gives, and I put around about a tablespoonful in, which would look just about like that. Give that a really good stir around so that it adds to the flavour. It also gives it a nice smooth texture. And at this point, if your rice is looking nice and well cooked like mine is, you could just take a teaspoon and taste it, and rather than simmering it anymore, you can just leave it to stand for that last 15 minutes. It's so that it just finishes soaking up the last of that juice, but without actually sticking to the pan and drying out too much. So we're just going to leave that to stand for 15 minutes, and we'll be back when it's dished out onto a plate so you can see what it'll look like to eat. And voila, 15 minutes later, here we have completed finished product ready to go. Nice crisp glass of Sauvignon Blanc actually there, with a nice healthy dish of chicken risotto. Enjoy.